Hello everyone. I recently asked some people on the social network site LinkedIn, and I did it specifically to several groups, criminal justice groups, and the question was, why is corrections not moving forward as fast as we would like it to, as far as people wanting to join us? Instead we seem to have some problems with staffing, or a lot of problems with staffing, and we have problems with sometimes corruption and so forth. So I ask, is it a problem because of the good old boy system, because we're not paying enough money to our staff, or is it the education issue, or is it a combination of all three? And I want you to hear from them, their answers directly, and I'll give you their titles. You won't hear from me today. I won't even give you my input today. I want to give you their input. I'll tell you where they're from and their title. It's public record. It's on LinkedIn. They voluntarily answered, but I'm not going to give their name because I did not ask them if I could give their name on this video. But it is on a public site. Hi, Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe if you like this video. All right, in response to that question, I got some very good answers. A retired prison governor at the Irish Prison Service stated, with regard to the standard of education for corrections officers, a higher certificate in custodial care may be appropriate, covering all aspects of prison law, psychology, and interpersonal skills. A degree will not be much use in confrontational situations. And I love this. No point in waiving a certificate at a hostile offender. Now, a governor is equal to a warden. This is a governor at the Irish Prison Service. I like that answer because I think what we're saying here is, if you want to get promoted and move up the line, maybe you need education. But he says, when you're on the front line, waiving that degree at a confrontational offender won't help. You have to totally depend on your personal skills and quick reaction, he states. This sounds like a governor that maybe came from the front line and did not forget where he came from. And here is another remark he made. Prisoners do not respect young staff giving instructions. There's so many points to be made on these issues. Staff recruited must be mature and previously exposed to life skills and other employments. Very interesting. And the loose cannon officer is the dread of all workmates, of all co-workers. If an officer brutalizes an offender, the other people present are compromised. They cannot give evidence against a colleague, and it's a worse situation to be in. They feel like they can't give evidence against a colleague, and it's a worse situation to be in. The union, in most cases, circle the wagons, and the incident is very difficult to resolve. The presence of cameras and strong management on the floor is the only option to resolve these issues. Staff cutbacks on the front lines is the cause for much unacceptable behavior. Staff shortages really hurt us all the way around. That prison governor, I kind of like his statement, and I think he hit all the areas on the questions I asked. I really like that one. Here's another one. Now, that was from a prison governor. From the Thin Blue Line Network, we have a retired New York police detective and a secretary of the FOP Lodge over there in New York. Okay. He said he had a mentor that told him when he was sworn in, if you're ever tempted to go astray, put your shield and your pension in one hand and whatever the officer was in the other hand, and see which one's worth more. In other words, if you're ever tempted to go astray, put your shield and your pension in one hand and what you're about to do in the other, and see which one is worth more. I was once in the position of receiving an offer, someone, or a bribe, I would assume, but I told the person before he made the offer, which was $250,000 back in 1970, that I wouldn't take the offer, but in hindsight, I sure would have sold myself short if I would have taken the $250,000. In other words, he's saying there's no amount of money that he would have taken to give up his pension and his retirement. But $250,000 would have sold himself very short. He says that in his opinion, the average pension is worth over $1 million. But his family and his home is worth much more. Beautiful. Remember that, folks, when you're out there and somebody wants to bribe you, or an inmate's family wants to offer you money, or an inmate wants to offer you, there's no amount that's worth it. He believes a pension alone is worth $1 million. But your family and home is worth much more than $1 million. Remember that the next time someone tries to lure you across the line. I really like that comment as well. He and the prison governor, I think, make some good points. This one comes out of Behavioral Criminology Group. This is a litigation coordinator from the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. He says, what I have found interesting while working in corrections and the litigation sector, there will always be staff that will test the system. There has to be enough incentive to weed out those bad apples, for example. I had an associate warden tell me early in my career, before you ever consider covering up an illegal activity, you better think about the consequences first. Parentheses, my paycheck and my home life. My thought process in the matter is no inmate or staff member is worth losing my job over. And if I ever witness an illegal activity, I will be the first in line to report it. And then he says, Gary, you mentioned better pay and benefits. I believe better pay will attract better qualified staff. There has to be a positive incentive for an individual to consider before making the leap. If the incentive is there, the illegal activity may not occur, as you noted in your interview in the Charlotte Correctional Incident. So I think that his words are very true and very good also. I have one here from the Criminal Justice Policing and Crime Investigation Student and Employer Network. I have a ton of comments. I'm not going to go over all of them. They're on LinkedIn. I picked these out myself, so you're only hearing the ones I picked out. I'll give you some more here, and you can listen as long as you wish. But I think there's some very good information in these intelligent individuals' answers. This is from a lieutenant in the Criminal Investigations Division, state of Florida, my state. I have no debate with any of these comments from news articles and the people commenting. In order for these illegal practices to curtail, the employee culture must change and fail-safe procedural mechanisms deployed. The state can throw as much taxpayer money at training and infrastructure as they can, and the problem will continue. So, he is saying that we can train, but the central issue is best said as, quote, you only get what you pay for. Another one that feels more pay raise, and I'm with that. As long as the state pays $30,000 a year for correction officers, you will have the same problem, and this is not solely academic to state corrections, but also reflective of all Florida state law enforcement to some degree. Bigger money brings bigger candidates. But will the state open that can of worms, or is it more economical to just haul off and pay settlement money? In other words, when something happens and the department is sued by inmates' families or civilians or whoever wants to complain about us, we just open up the pockets and pay them off. Here, $30,000 to settle, $50,000 to settle, $100,000 to settle. That's costing us a ton of money. And I believe what he's getting at is, why are we doing that? Let's pay a higher salary to corrections officers, and let's get better candidates in here, and then let's work on weeding out the bad apples, and maybe we won't be paying out so many debts. You know, there's lots of cases we could probably win because they're false allegations against us. But no, many state corrections agencies will say, well, you know, the attorney's going to cost $30,000. Maybe $50,000. This, and then we have to go to court, and the media is going to be. Let's just offer them $50,000 to settle the case. Well, when you pay off $50,000 to settle a case, it's almost like like you've admitted guilt or something is wrong. Here is an adjustant instructor from the Thin Blue Line Network. At a technical college. I've worked in the jail system, which is not the same as prison, of course, but I have seen officers, for lack of better words, treating inmates disrespectful. I would tell these officers that the inmates are people too, and they should be treated with respect. Now, she's getting into another area, and this has been debated a lot. You know, if we treat inmates with respect, will they treat us back with respect? Being around so many prisoners, I could see how mistreatment could get out of hand if there was no oversight or control of the officers. With such a big company as Charlotte Correctional Institution, I had used that as an example in the case study. That's why people are referring it. And here's her final comment. She is saying, if anyone is not familiar with the Stanford Prison Experiment, they need to look it up and see what it goes on. And there's been a lot of talk on the Stanford Prison Experiment too. So, she is saying that we could fix things by being more respectful to the inmates. Well, just a quick note on that. We're going to be fair, firm, and consistent with the inmates. We're going to give them everything they need to survive and get through their prison time. We're not going to abuse them, starve them, or anything like that. But I think that she's in a whole nother topic, a whole nother video, and a whole nother area, and maybe we'll hit that on another week. Okay? Here is, let's hear from a correction officer. You've heard from some higher-ups, some doctors, some politicians, some NYPD. Here is from a correctional officer in a private prison. I won't say where. You are correct, Mr. York. The good old boy system has had many victims. Unfortunately, and this is the main reason I would like to see this system change. The system, as it is, needs to be addressed and dealt with. I know that this would be a complex issue, as this is a huge perspective and difficult to expose. He's talking about the good old boy system. For many people are pledged into the society. I do believe that if the institution and the human resources were totally separate entities and allow seniority and experience to play a major role in promotion, rather than promoting buddies, that this would be a good start. And you know, I like that. Let's promote the people who deserve to be promoted. And I have to agree with this correctional officer on this. He's very well spoken, and he did a very long answer. So he is very concerned about the future of corrections, very concerned about the good old boy system. And let me see if there's something else I would like to quote. Oh, well, here we go. This happens a lot. For many people are being pledged in society. I've seen too often that the fishing buddy, let me throw golfing in there too, gets promoted over the experienced and qualified people. Any of you ever see that? The fishing or golfing buddies are the ones that get promoted, and you have people in line that have much more experience and better qualified. They get passed over. The old kissing me ass theory, excuse my language, which to me weakens a system, and when operating a prison creates a more hostile work environment. Abuse on both sides of the fence and leaves the institution vulnerable. Add in, if keeping the public safe is the key to prisons, then this system needs to be sought out and changed for a balanced system. The only true way for this to take place is for there to be a law written to go against this type of discrimination and so forth. He goes on for a long time. He made some good points there, and excuse me for my statement, but you know, frontline talk, you know, kissing butt has gotten a lot of people promotions, and a lot of people that are better qualified skipped over. I have to agree with him on that, and I wanted to get a correctional officer's statement in there as well. Another one from the Thin Blue Line Network is he has himself listed as an educator, but he is a retired police officer. And he said, let's see, bad luck, indictments, wrongful deaths, sounds like a cesspool with no accountability and apparently no follow-up by the state attorney general as this conduct is reportedly continued, meaning misconduct among staff. And, you know, we always say those few bad apples, you know, they portray the rest of us in a wrong light. They taint the image of the honest correctional officers. Obviously, no one has learned anything from the Stanford prison experiment from many decades ago. Too bad. Another one who mentioned the Stanford prison experiment. There's been some videos done on that. There's been some documentaries done on that. There's a movie on it. Look it up, folks. That is another whole video in itself that could take up, we could sit here for an hour on the Stanford experiment, and we may do that in the future since it's been mentioned several times throughout these responses from my LinkedIn request. Let me see if I can find another one, because we know this video can go and you can leave anytime you wish, or you can stop and come back. I appreciate you watching, and I wanted to do a video without just my input. Okay, I wanted you to see some input from other people, and I don't want to read every one of them, but here is a retired correctional officer sergeant, and he answered his on the Criminal Justice Policing and Crime Investigation Student and Employer Network. And he states, if the managers have poor attitudes, some in the line staff will also reflect the same type of attitude. If the line staff are treated poorly, then in most cases, some of the in custodies will be treated poorly also. So he's saying if management treats frontline poor, this will bleed over into the front line treating the inmates bad. To have a good cohesive group, you need to have team spirit, good morale, and loyalty to your coworkers and your front line. I like that. If the line becomes complacent and takes shortcuts when doing their duties, they will start to bend the rules and start doing things their way. If the manager is one of those telling staff, I don't care how you do it, just do it, it promotes problems that will arise in the dorm and the living areas of the inmates. A manager who shifts responsibility and then blames to others has no respect from anyone, and his section will have low morale, if any. Rules will be broken, staff will get hurt, and excessive force will be used to control in custody individuals. Wow. That's a very good statement. That's a sergeant. So now you've had some top dog statements, a correctional officer statement, a correctional officer sergeant statement. And I think that his statement is very powerful as well. I really like it. This one got a little blurred. This is from New Zealand Correction, a senior advisor from the New Zealand Department of Corrections, who stated robust selection, not higher education, are the most important. Another one who says it's not the education that makes the best person. He said a robust selection, suitable life skills, and correct psychic profile, and high quality training, says this senior advisor from New Zealand. These are the keys to motivated professional service. Short statement, to the point, but I like it. That is from a senior advisor in New Zealand. So we've had Ireland and New Zealand chime in. Thank you very much. Here is from a consultant for corrections. Okay, this is a corrections consultant who advertises himself as available for any corrections agencies that need consulting. He put education question. First he put great comments, meaning all the other people, and then he put education question. I know a lot of correction officers that did not come into corrections with an education and were just fine. I have also experienced officers and supervisors with the highest education levels making many mistakes. So there we go, folks. We've had several people say that this certificate of education may not be the key. I believe that you have to work with what you already have. And we have studied cases the last 6 years of my career, and the best education that can be implemented to correctional officers is correctional officer, frontline training. Good old on-the-job frontline training. And I'm glad I almost missed his statement there. I'm glad I threw that in. I'm going through now just seeing if there's some that I can throw in here. You're free to cut out, take a break, and listen. This is one of my longer videos, but none of these statements are mine. I am telling you if I agree with them, though. And I was very happy with the response. I have a lot. These are all printed out from the responses. And I just thought, let me send some questions out to these folks, these professionals out on the LinkedIn network. I say if you're not signed up on LinkedIn yet, it's a professional site for all job opportunities, all jobs across the country and the world, all kinds of good information, and very highly intelligent people. More highly intelligent than me. I give you my opinion from my 28 years in corrections. These people are giving you their opinions from their years in corrections, but from different levels, many different levels. That way you don't just hear one level. So I hope that everything is going good for you. Now, I want to end it with one thing. We had some people who aren't in corrections, okay? So I want to end on a janitor's note, believe it or not. The man is a janitor and a housekeeper. And he took the time to give a statement and read all these comments from everybody else. So in ending, let me give you what he said. And you don't have to agree with it. I want you to know this is not a corrections person. But why am I going to give you this statement at the end? Because this is what many people believe on the outside. And this is why we have to have training, reputation management training, so that we don't have these bad incidents occur from these few bad apples that we do fight to weed them out. But we don't want people going around saying this. This is a janitor, and this is what he has to say. This is what the department wants. Young, hot-headed, physically fit roughnecks. Behind those walls is more corruption against inmates than you can imagine. When you get a write-up, you're going to lose. The officers need training in life skills and psychology. In all, if you do a staff complaint on an officer, it's all bad on the inmate. So you wonder why so much hostility in that workplace. Kind of get the feeling this janitor may have been in prison himself at one time. You know, it's unfortunate that he feels that way, and there's some incidents that have happened and come out in the news, and some officers get arrested or abused, and that's what makes everyone think what he just stated. They think that's all everybody. We've got to change the image. We've got to have some reputation management. And my question was, is it the good old boy system? Is it education? Is it not enough pay? And you heard the answers from around the world. And please, tell us what you think. I know it's a long video, but, you know, I hope this was a little educational for you. I really hope that this sent out some messages and made you think about it. And let us know what we need to do. What do we need to do to better ourselves? I think we are doing a lot of good protecting our citizens and maintaining our position between the criminals and society. And I think that we have a lot of great correctional officers out there that are very intelligent. There's many of them that don't do these videos like I do and some of my other colleagues, but they speak much better than I do, and they speak more intelligently. Okay, I'm just an old-timer and trying to get the word out there, trying to get the minds going and the thoughts going on all these things. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please, everyone in corrections, stay safe, head on a swivel, and God bless. Please subscribe to my channel.